Over the years, I've built multiple businesses online, both for myself and for clients, and I've helped generate tens of millions of dollars in revenue. I'm going to let you in on a secret. None of that happened by accident, especially in the businesses that did really well. I've used these proven, powerful psychological triggers that are proven to make people want to buy over and over again. Today, what I'm going to do in this video is pull back the curtain and share with you the 11 most dangerous, most powerful psychological triggers that you can master to get people to take action and buy from you. No fluff, just real strategies, scientifically proven, that work time and time again. Let's dive in. When you're presented with two things in a row, your perception of the second is always influenced by the first. This is called the contrast principle. The way we can leverage this in business is in how you present your offer and the structure and order of that. Give you an easy example to start with. Let's say you sell somebody a suit. Well, once you've done that and they've spent, say, $500, the $100 sweater afterward doesn't really seem as expensive, especially if it makes the suit look better. In marketing, we often also use this in our funnels. We will offer the main product first and then offer a one-time upsell at the point of sale. It's usually something like, let's say the main offer is, I don't know, $500 again. Maybe you make it $100, $150, and it's a special discount they're only going to get now because they're buying the main thing. Okay. Now, let's just say you have a $2,500 service. What if you could increase the average order value just 20% by including a one time offer? Well, 20% of $2,500 is an extra $500 per customer. Doesn't sound that significant, but if you have, say, 100 customers a year, you just added $50,000 in revenue by making one very simple adjustment. So the message here, if you want to use the contrast principle, is make a one-time offer at the time of purchase. This is the best time because they're already buying. They're already in that mindset of saying yes. So they'll often add on more, especially if the thing that you offer saves them time, money, or inconvenience. Okay. So the key to that is the order of the request. Sell the main expensive thing and then sell the one time offer. And particularly if it saves them time, money, or hassle, you can increase your average order value 10, 20, even 30%. The next one is what I call the buying criteria script. Every buyer has an unspoken checklist in their mind, a set of criteria that needs to be satisfied before they're willing to commit and buy from you. For example, we all want to feel confident that we're making the best choice when we buy something, right? Nobody wants to look foolish for making a bad decision. Nobody wants to have to explain to their wife or friends or kids why they can't go on vacation this year because dad messed up. This is exactly why reviews are so powerful. We use them as a shortcut to avoid doing all the research ourselves because we just simply don't have the time. The reason we rely on these reviews is that when we're buying something new, we don't know the right questions to ask or the potential pitfalls to avoid. And this creates an opportunity. The smart companies equip their prospects with those most important questions and then provide the answers. So, for instance, you could create a guide for the 10 things every homeowner should know before hiring a landscaper. This idea can be applied to any niche. The point is, when you give prospects the right tools and information to make a good decision, whether they buy from you or not, you've established trust and built yourself as an authority in their mind. And that level of trust almost always leads to an opportunity for you to give a quote. So by helping prospects define their buying criteria and providing the answers up front, you set yourself apart from the competition. I believe every business should have a guide like that to help them win in their industry. And if you want to do something like that, I can make a video on that. Let me know. The safety in numbers principle is based on the idea that when we're unsure about what's good, valuable, or safe, we naturally look to the crowd. The assumption is that if a lot of people are buying something, then they've already done their due diligence or their research and it must be good. If others trust it, it must be a safe bet. This is especially true because we know that what companies say about themselves is just marketing, right? It's promotional and, yes, probably biased. So instead, we turn to the crowd and listen to what they're saying. particularly if a large number of people are saying the same thing. We do that to quickly figure out who we should buy from, who it's safe to transact with. This is why review sites are so influential. It's also why the person with the most social proof in the market usually wins. This is why video testimonials are even better than written ones, because seeing a real person share their experience just creates a deeper level of trust. We can see that they're real, and that makes a huge difference too. Just think for a second about canned laughter in TV shows. Experiments have actually shown that it makes people laugh longer and more often when they hear it. So, yeah, it might be annoying and you kind of wonder why they still do it, but it's there for a reason because it works. The reason is that 95% of people are imitators, not initiators. We simply follow the actions of others, and that influence is powerful. If you want to test this principle yourself, take any page that you have that is already making sales. Maybe it's your homepage, maybe it's a landing page. And I want you to add something that I call the wall of love. The wall of love is a scrolling wall of testimonials, as many videos as you can, as many testimonials, whatever you have, reviews, screenshots of reviews, just put it all in there. Make it a never ending scroll of social proof. When you do that and you just put that on the page, you're likely to see a 10 to 30% boost in sales just from adding that social proof without changing anything else. Here's something else really powerful. We naturally like people who are similar to us. That's why when you start a call or a meeting, you tend to just naturally build rapport by finding common ground with the other person. It might be shared experiences, interests, or even values. And in fact, values is an interesting one. There's a study that found that 58% of people are more likely to buy from a company where they feel the founder or the company shares the same values as them. That is the power of similarity in action. To leverage this, you need to authentically demonstrate values that align with your target market. To be clear, this isn't about faking it. People can smell inauthenticity from a mile away. But if you truly share values with your market, make that a key part of your messaging. It's also crucial to reflect your audience visually. Yes, diversity is an important conversation, but from a purely marketing perspective, your visuals should resonate with your typical customer. Look, if you're selling to the over 50s crowd, showing a 20 something kid from the city with blue hair just isn't going to connect with them. Your images, whether they're on your website, your social media, or in your product shots, should make your audience feel like they belong. Even something as simple as just switching out the images on your website to match your market can have a noticeable uplift in conversions. I've seen it, I've tested it, it works. When people see themselves in your brand, they're far more likely to feel connected and make a purchase. So give this one a go. The bottom line is that when people see themselves in your brand, they're far more likely to feel connected and therefore make a purchase. The most successful products in the world don't just sell, they create habits. For a product or service to become a habit, it has to be something that you integrate into the customer's daily life. Think of products like video games, food tracking apps, food delivery apps, language learning platforms. They're all naturally habit forming. But the real secret in them is the use of variable rewards. That's why people spend hours on games like Candy Crush chasing different prizes, why they like Uber Eats because they get different rewards, different food delivered. These apps keep you engaged by rewarding you over time for hitting different milestones. It might be losing weight, it might be learning your 10 words for the day. The key thing here is that if your product or service doesn't naturally trigger a habit or reward loop, well, don't worry. You can still build that connection by adding in something like a community, a newsletter, or even a social following, for example, something any business can do. When people feel connected to you or your brand, you can engage them regularly, ideally daily, right? Sending information to them and also offering rewards over time. Think about lead magnets, giveaways, exclusive content, whatever it is. The key here is to keep things interesting, continually add value over time, and you can create those same habit forming connections that keeps your customers coming back again and again. Confirmation bias is our natural tendency to seek out information that supports what we already believe. For example, you probably follow people on social media who share your viewpoints, right? Look, we all do it. It's comfortable because it reinforces the way we see the world. To leverage this in marketing, we need to enter the conversation already happening in our prospect's mind. I want you to think of it like this: pace, 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 and then lead. And that means that first we need to agree with what they already think, explain why that logic makes perfect sense, why they're absolutely right, and show that their current mindset is, yeah, logical. After that, and only after we've gained their trust, can we then guide them in a different direction, one that's actually more beneficial for them. See, the thing is, change is difficult for most people. We need to lean into the confirmation bias before we're asking them to shift. So when you write copy or run promotions or do a sales call, it's crucial to help your audience understand their current situation first. Explain why it's not their fault, why their past decisions made sense at the time, but also highlight the pain or loss that they're experiencing as a result of that previous decision. Then what you do is you paint a picture of a better future, one they can step into with your product or service as the catalyst. The self serving bias is our natural tendency to give ourselves credit for successes, but blame failures on external factors. When a project goes well, we feel it's because we worked hard and we're maybe a little bit talented. But when things go wrong, we're quick to point to bad luck or circumstances beyond our control. We do that because it helps us protect our self esteem. To tap into this in your marketing, give your audience credit for any positive action or result they've achieved. Make them feel good about the smart decisions they've made. On the other side, for any mistakes or failures, take the blame off them. Explain that it wasn't their fault. The system was rigged against them. They just weren't given the information they needed to know. The world was designed to trick them. From that point, you frame your product or service as the smart solution that can pull them out of that situation that they're in. They don't have to stay stuck now that they've seen the truth. They now have the opportunity to make a better choice. When they choose your product, they're no longer the fool. They're now the wise investor who deserves praise for turning things around. The mere exposure effect, also known as the familiarity principle, means that the more we see something, the more likely we are to accept it. In marketing, this translates into increasing the visibility of a product or brand. When customers see something regularly, they start to believe it's prominent because it's popular. Really simple things like placing a product at eye level in a store leverage that bias. That's the reason brands pay so much to have their product at eye level and not at foot level. To take advantage of this in your own marketing, you need to be what's known as omnipresent, which is everywhere. What I've done in the past with great success is build a customer audience list. We did that by collecting email addresses and then uploading them to platforms like Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn. We would then run ads to that custom audience across all of those platforms. But we didn't stop there. We'd also send cold emails to the same prospects and even follow up with printed physical letters sent to their homes and businesses. That way, when they see us in their social feed and they get emails from us and they even receive something in their mailbox, plus with our Google ads running on sites that they visit, like their local news site, they start to see us everywhere. The result, when they're ready to buy, we are absolutely top of mind. We become the obvious choice, or at the very least, someone they're going to consider when making that buying decision. Salience comes from our natural habit of choosing the option that stands out the most. We tend to think that if something is unique, it probably has other positive qualities as well. This is especially critical in markets where products all seem the same, where they are commodities. Even in those markets, there's always a way to differentiate, even if the product or service itself is literally identical to the competition. I like to approach this one using what I call the new opportunity framework. Your product should feel completely different, like a new vehicle to help your customer reach their desired outcome, their desired destination. When you do that, it no longer allows for an apples to apples comparison where they can compare the two side by side, because what you've done is create an offer that feels so distinct and so unique that they can't do that. Let me give you a couple of examples to get this to make sense. In the crowded coffee market, Starbucks differentiated themselves by selling an experience rather than just coffee. They became known for the environment and the personalized cup, and that created a new experience around an otherwise common product. Starbucks called their places the third place. There's home, there's work, there's Starbucks. Another example is Apple. Apple is not just a phone company, they've created a lifestyle. Their products stand out not just because the technology is great, but they've got sleek design, brand identity, and an ecosystem that makes them feel different from any other tech brand. In the online course industry, you can sell a course or you can frame your teaching as a mentorship or a community experience. That shift alone changes the customer's perception of the product, even though it's still effectively just delivering educational content. So, the key is to present your product or service as something that offers a new opportunity or experience. Because when you do that, it feels incomparable to anything else in the market. The money's worth bias is the belief that if something costs more, it must be of a higher quality. And especially that's true when it comes from a trusted brand. When it's a trusted brand behind it, it has like a 10x multiplier effect. People naturally associate a higher price tag with more value. To use this bias in your marketing, you need confidence in your product or service. Don't shy away from showing off your price. Instead, what you do is you emphasize the benefits and showcase why it's worth every penny. Even if the price is high, you can still frame it as a great deal by focusing on the long term value that your customer will receive when they buy your product or service. From my experience, products often sell better with a higher price point simply because people perceive them as having more value and quality. Now, yes, there is a limit. Once the price gets too high, you are going to have a sales cycle that gets longer, right? Because customers need more time to consider it, maybe more time to justify the cost. But I've seen businesses be able to double and even treble their prices without hurting sales simply by doing more to justify the cost and framing the value of the product as greater than the price that's being paid. Remember, it's all about helping your customers see that the price is small compared to the value that they're going to get in return. The IKEA effect is the idea that we become more attached to something when we've contributed to it, even in really small ways. The research shows that people who assemble their own IKEA furniture end up valuing it more simply because they had a hand in putting it together. The principle applies not only to customers, but also within teams. Businesses that involve the team in the planning and development of a new product often see higher commitment and adoption rates. Quite simply, when people are part of the process, they're more invested and feel more ownership over the outcome. So, how can you leverage this in your marketing? We'll start by identifying the top 20% of your customers. That's the customers that spend the most money with you. And I want you to invite them to be beta testers of any new product or service that you're launching. Let them know that you value their feedback as loyal customers. By doing this, you'll not only strengthen your relationships with those key customers, but they'll also feel valued and understood. And when people feel that way, they naturally become your biggest advocates. The authority bias comes into play when people trust the opinions of authority figures over others. In marketing, we often see this through testimonials and even endorsements from experts or well known figures like celebrities. In the past, this was always about hiring celebrities for ads, but consumers have caught on. They know that actors are just doing it for the paycheck and they'll pretty much promote anything for some money. So, whilst it still works, it's not as powerful as it used to be. In the modern era, we have a different version of the authority bias. And that's where you go onto a website and you might see like a strip that showcases the logos of the well known brands using that product. When you see companies like Google, Apple, Tesla, whoever the big companies are using that service, you immediately think if it's good enough for them, it must be good enough for me. It must be good. They wouldn't buy a service that wasn't good. Influencer marketing has really taken this concept even further. When an influencer in a specific market endorses a product, it feels more authentic and their followers trust their judgment, which makes it a powerful driver of sales. So, how can you use that in your business? Well, one simple way is to showcase any well known companies or respected brands that use your product, right? That's kind of an easy one. But even if you don't have big names yet, consider partnering with respected figures in your industry, whether that's through collaborations, cross promotions, or even creating content with them. This is where perhaps a podcast and inviting them on as a guest can be a really powerful strategy. By aligning yourself with known authorities, you instantly boost your credibility and make it easier for people to trust your product. The loss aversion bias taps into a deep seated human fear, the fear of losing what we already have. People are more motivated to avoid losses than they are to pursue gains. A perfect example of this is insurance. I spent 12 years in the industry, and I can tell you when people buy insurance, they aren't really as focused on the premiums. They're thinking about the huge costs that they might face if something goes wrong. Car insurance is a perfect example of that. As a company selling car insurance, you can tell stories about customers who lost their cars due to a large claim that they couldn't afford to cover. Those stories tap into our kind of primal fear of loss. These stories tap into our primal fear of loss and make us more likely to buy insurance because we want to avoid that potential disaster. So, how can we use that in marketing and business? One effective way is by emphasizing what your prospect stands to lose if they don't take action. Let's say you're selling a software subscription. Highlight the potential time savings, the money savings, or even the opportunities that they're losing by sticking with outdated or inefficient systems. Maybe they're leaving money on the table by not using a tool that could boost their conversions. The point is, by painting a vivid picture of the potential loss, you make your offer that much more compelling. Just remember one thing: trust, as always, is key. Be transparent and accurate with your claims because your credibility is on the line and people can pretty quickly see through it if you're exaggerating or just using dishonest tactics. So, these are powerful biases and we can use them, but use them wisely and do the right thing. The framing effect shows how the way we present a message can completely change how people interpret it, even if the facts are exactly the same. It's all about context. For example, let's say you're selling a product and you say, this version saves you $100. Well, how about if you said, this version costs $100 less? Most people will choose the option that's framed as saving them money, even though the cost is identical. So, how can you use this in your marketing and business? Let's say you're offering a discount on a service. Instead of saying get 10% off, you could frame it as save $200 on your project. The actual numbers are the same, but the focus on saving money feels more tangible to the customer, making it more compelling. Another example, let's say you are marketing a subscription service. Instead of saying pay $500 a year, frame it as save 20% when you pay annually versus monthly. You're still charging the same amount, but you're highlighting the savings in a way that makes the offer feel like a better deal. The way you frame your offer can make all the difference in how it's perceived. So always think about the context that will resonate most with your audience. The consistency bias is all about our natural tendency to stick with what we've already done. As consumers, we like to keep things simple. And once we've made a decision or formed a habit, we're more likely to repeat it, especially if it worked out well in the past. This is a powerful tool in marketing because people crave consistency. If your product or service has been a part of someone's routine, they're actually far more likely to continue using it rather than switch to something new, even if that something new might be better. To leverage this bias in your marketing, focus on reinforcing past positive decisions that your customers have made. For example, when following up with a repeat customer, remind them of how well your product has worked for them before. Try saying something like, you've already made a smart choice by using this specific thing in the past. Here's how it can continue helping you and even help you get more of that. By emphasizing consistency and framing your offer as a natural continuation of their previous choices, you can encourage customers to stick with you instead of exploring alternatives. People prefer to be consistent, so tap into that habit-forming desire. All right, that wraps up my list of 15 dangerously powerful psychological triggers that make people buy. These are the exact triggers that I've used to help clients generate millions and millions of dollars across multiple industries. And now you have the tools to apply them too. Remember, it's not about manipulating people. It's about understanding human behavior and meeting your audience where they are. When you tap into these psychological principles, you're not just selling a product, you're helping your customers make decisions that truly benefit them. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway or how you plan to use these triggers in your own business. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.